transcription has started recording at the top of your page. Okay, so agenda, I don't know if we have, just going to go through. I can't see everybody, and we still have some people coming in. So I've introduced myself. I do know that we have people from a number of schools. If I just say your first name, do you want to just tell us your name and where you're from, if you're comfortable doing that? I'll start with Robin. I'll just go down the list that I have here.
Yeah, my name is Robin Ezekiel. I'm from Darcy High School.
Hey, Robin. Craig? Sorry, you're muted, Craig.
Sorry, guys. Just
no.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Craig from Darcy McGee High School. I teach phys ed there.
Thanks, Craig. Dahlia?
Hi, I'm Dahlia Tennessee. I'm from Chelsea Elementary.
Great. And then I have, my list just moved. Dear Bill? I'm sorry if I said that incorrectly. McDermott?
You're okay. My name's Dermot McDermott. I work at South Elementary School and I teach grade 4-5.
Great, thank you, Derville. Kelsey?
Hi, I'm Kelsey and I'm from McDowell Elementary.
Great, welcome. And then we have Carrie.
Hi, I'm Carrie and I'm from Dr. Wilbur Keown School.
See you here. And Sarah.
Hi, I'm Sarah. I teach at Sims Junior High, art.
Great. Sheldon, we heard from a little earlier, but we'll let him introduce himself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sheldon. I'm mostly from Hull Adult Education Center in the AVT sector, and also from Maniwaki and Val-d'Or most recently.
Great. And Stephanie?
Hi, my name's Stephanie Austin, and I work at Chelsea Elementary.
Great. Eric?
Hi, Eric. Hi, Eric Advocate. I'm also at Chelsea Elementary.
Chelsea, great. Alex?
Yeah, hi, I'm at Lord Elmer.
Great. Anastasia?
Hello, I have a child at Darcy McGee, and this is my first time on the governing board.
Oh, great, welcome. Andrew?
Hi, Andrew Bales at Pierre Elliott Trudeau, a parent at at Pete's, and it's also my first time here.
Good stuff. Brittany?
Hi, I'm also a parent from Dr. Wilbur Keown School in Chapel, and it's also my first time on the governing board.
Great, welcome. Bronwyn?
Hi, I'm Bronwyn Rayfield, and I'm a parent at Wakefield Elementary School.
Good stuff. Julie?
Hi, my name is Julie Kennedy. I'm a parent at the Philemon Wright Governing Board, and I was on the PEDS Governing Board for a number of years, but it's always good. I took the training a couple of years ago, but looking forward to maybe a refresher.
Good stuff. Karen?
Hello. I'm new to the governing board for Hadley.
Okay, welcome.
Thanks.
Marilyn?
Hi, my name is Marilyn Lavoie. I've been on the governing board for 2 years now, also part of the home and school at Greater Gatineau.
Great, thank you. Marina?
Hi, I'm Marina. I'm parent at Sims, and it's also my first time on governing board.
So welcome. Marissa?
Hi, I'm Marisa Consolata Kemper, and I have 3 17-year-olds just busting through my kitchen. I'm on the governing board. I'm a parent at Chelsea Elementary.
That's great stuff. Thank you. Tammy Ann?
Hi, my name is Tammy Ann Serre. I'm a parent of
K5 student at Maniwaki Woodlands. So this is my first year on the governing board.
Great, welcome. Hey, that's great. Terry?
Hi, I'm Terry Cameron. I'm from Lord Elmer. First time on the governing board.
And then I have Karen.
Hi, I'm Corrine LaChapelle from Queen Elizabeth and Casabasua. First time on governing board, SEAC parent representative with 2 11-year-olds at the school.
Great. And I think I missed, is it Karen Wyatt? Or did I get you?
Well, yeah, you did.
I did? Okay, yeah. Sorry.
No, it's okay.
And I believe Asha has just joined us. Are you there?
Yes,
yeah.
hi,
Great.
sorry, I was having trouble logging in.
Oh, no, that's my fault. I'm not quick enough on it and letting people in. Sorry.
That's all right. So I missed, are we supposed to present ourselves?
Sure, just introduce yourself in the school and that'd be great.
Okay, so my name is Asha Boucher. My son goes to Erdley Elementary. He started last year in K4 and he's now in kindergarten.
That's great, thank you. And I believe we also have our interim chair of the Council of Commissioners, Mr. Daly. Are you there?
Yes, sir.
Great.
Good evening. I'm Wayne Daly, the new interim chair for the Western Quebec School Board. Glad to have you all here.
Great stuff. Okay, thank you, everybody. Did I miss anybody that wants to introduce themselves? Okay.
Hi there.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Can
Go
you
ahead.
hear me?
Yep.
That's okay. It wouldn't let me in with my account, so I had to join with my daughter's account.
Okay.
Because she's part of WQSB. So I have 2 kids. One is at Philemon and one is at Hadley. And my name is Chev Price, and this is my first time on governing board.
Excellent. Thank you very much, everybody. That's great. Boy, that's a large crowd, which is excellent. And again, I'll just reiterate, if and as you have questions, please just stop me, put a hand up or wave or both, or just interrupt me with your questions. So agenda-wise, you should still see my screen. I don't know if I'm going to be brave enough to try this Kahoot. We did it, I think, last year. We did one, and I was asked about it. Somebody said, are you going to do that Kahoot thing again? I wasn't planning on it, and then they said it was interesting and informative, so we'll try it. We'll look at the Education Act, roles and powers, some key elements of the governing board, and then, of course, the burning questions, which is really the reason most of you, or if not all of you, are here, is to ask the questions that you already have. Okay, so if you want to try this, it should take a couple of minutes. It's not trivia. It's all governing board related. I tried to make it as undry as possible, but well, I did my best. So what you would do is either on your computer or on a device, if you go to www.kahoot.it and then punch in that game number, 219-3980. And I'm going to share a different screen. I'll just wait for people to do so. And if you just want to follow along and not actually play on a device, that's okay as well. I see a couple of people on the screen are punching in or pretending to at least, so that's good. And if you're not actually playing on a device, you'll still be able to see the questions. And as I said, they're all governing board related. So I'm going to stop sharing. Does anybody need more time to punch in that number? 219-3980. 219-3980. I'm going to mute you, interim chair Daly. Done. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing this screen, bring up the other one. Okay, I'm going to share my screen so you will see. Do you see the Kahoot? I just lost everybody.
Yes, we can see
Okay,
the
you see
Kahoot.
it? Okay, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Holy smokes, 17 people playing, 18. I love the names. Taco Tuesdays, that's great. Okay, we're going to start. We'll begin and have fun with it. And interim chair Daly, don't turn your mic on and be answering all the questions, please. So here we go. We're beginning Kahoot at work. You should see it on your device. 3, 2, 1, and I'll read the questions as they come up. Governing board shall not have more than 16 members, 20 members, 24 members, none of the above. There's no limit.
All I see is a triangle, a circle.
Oh, really?
And then my time ran up. Couldn't see, there was no question and there was no answers. It was just the color blocks.
Okay.
Yeah, the
Red,
only way
blue.
to
Same for me.
see the colors and the answer would
Yeah,
be
same
for
for me.
you to look at the screen in Microsoft Teams for the answers and the colors, and then go
Oh,
back
you have to have them both?
to select the
Holy
appropriate color.
smokes.
It's easier if you have them both because it'll show on the presenter's screen. It's like as if we were in class and we did this
Okay.
with our class. It shows the questions, the question on there with the possible answers, and then the
Okay.
kids would be on their device and they would click the one.
So you're looking at my shared screen and answering on your device, correct?
That's what I'm doing.
Okay.
Yes, I'm on my phone.
Okay.
So I shouldn't have done it on
Yeah.
the same computer.
Sorry, Robin.
It's all good.
Okay. Okay. Next question. So Stephanie, Eric sent us a note, making sure he said all that matters is that he got it right, which he did. Next question is, what's the minimum number of parent representatives for a governing board? Is it A, 2, B, 3, C, 4, or D, no minimum? Minimum number of parent reps for a governing board, A2, B3, C4, D, no minimum. Okay, and the correct answer was 4. The correct answer for the first question was 20. Go to, okay, Eric, you're still in the lead. We go to next question. True or false? The principal of the school is entitled to vote on governing board. Is that true or false? Principal of the school is entitled to vote on governing board. And the answer should come up 1 second. Is false. The principal is not does not have a vote on governing board. So we've got our tally. Eric is holding the lead. Britt following closely behind. Another true or false. Elected commissioners. So an elected school board commissioner may be a member of governing board, provided the school is in her or his respective ward. So can an elected commissioner be a member of the governing board as long as it's a governing board that's in their ward? True or false? And the answer is false. So an elected school commissioner is not eligible. They can attend governing board. So if you have a commissioner, for example, Commissioner Daly, who's the interim chair, who's here with us this evening, can either be invited or asked to present, not present, but be present at a governing board. That's not a problem, but they do not have a vote. You're hanging in there, Eric. Next question is the term of office for parent representatives on a governing board is it 1 year, B, 2 years, C, 3 years, or D, sorry, a lifetime appointment? 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, or a lifetime appointment. For some people, it has been a lifetime appointment. It feels like they've been members for quite a while. And the answer is 2 years. So you're elected for a 2-year term. Next question. A parent's representative on governing board whose child no longer attends school. A, may remain a member of the governing board until the next meeting is held. B, must step down immediately. C, may continue for the school year. And D is a life member, regardless, just like the Senate. And the answer is A. A parent rep whose child no longer attends the school may remain a member of the governing board until the next meeting, at which time they would need to step down. Okay, next question. Is it true or false? The term of office of the chair of a governing board is 1 year. Is that true, A, or B, false? So the chair of your governing board, is their term 1 year or 2 years? And the answer is it's true. It is 1 year. 1 year term. Okay, true or false again. A majority of the members of the governing board, including at least half of the parent representatives, constitute quorum. Is that true or false? So a quorum would be a majority of the members, including at least half of the parent reps. That's what quorum is. Is that true or false? Okay, and the answer is true. That's what quorum is. Majority of the members, of which you have to have at least half of the parent representatives. Eric, you're still hanging in there. True or false? The decisions of a governing board are made by a majority of vote of the members present and entitled to vote. True or false? Any decision that's made by a governing board is made by a majority vote of the members who are present and entitled to vote. Okay, and the answer is true. No change. Quiz score, we got a couple, 5 left. What is the process in the event votes on a motion are equally divided? So you have a motion and you have 8 votes for, 8 votes against. As an example, what happens? A, the chair asks that members reconsider. B, the school principal casts. C, the chair casts. Or do you table a motion to the next meeting? And the answer is that the chair would cast the deciding vote. And it's interesting, if you look in Robert's Rules of Order, which is generally used as a guide for internal rules, there are different interpretations, but as a general rule, the chair wouldn't vote on, wouldn't make resolutions at a governing board, your chair wouldn't, and B, would not vote initially. And the reason for that is in the event that there is a tie, then the chair would cast the deciding vote. Next question. Somebody just took over the lead. Governing board meetings are open to the public. True or false? I guess everybody knows that. Governing board meetings are open to the public. So the answer, I think everybody's answered, yeah, is true. They are open to the public, but one important piece, and I'm adding these little pieces as we go along here, is that although they're open to the public, what you should have on your agenda as a standing item is a public participation. So typically that's at the beginning of a governing board meeting, at which time the chair would ask if there are people present who wish to participate. They're given typically maybe 3 minutes to speak, and they're heard, but it's not an interchange that's going back and forth through the meeting. The other thing is, if a member of the public attends the meeting, they can stay past the public participation as an observer only. So it would be out of order for somebody who is a member of the public to attend a governing board meeting and be interjecting and adding feedback or asking questions throughout the meeting and so on. So that's an important distinction for people to understand. We've got a new leader as we get near the end. A couple of questions left. The governing board is responsible for approving A, the anti-bullying, anti-violence plan, B, the rules of conduct and safety measures proposed by the principal, C, the time allocation for each compulsory or elective subject, or D, all of the above. So anti-bullying, anti-violence, conduct, safety, time allocation, or all of the above. And the answer is actually all of the above. Those are not the only things that a governing board approves. When we refer to the Education Act and I show you the link, you'll have everything in there. But those are three of the important things that governing board does approve. To the top remains at the top. True or false, the governing board may, in the name of the school board, solicit and receive gifts from any person or public or private organization. So in the name of the school board, can the governing board solicit and receive gifts from any person or public or private organization? Is that true or false? Okay, and it is actually true that the governing board can do so. One important piece, and you'll see that in the Education Act, is that in doing so the governing board may do so. However, gifts from any person, public, private organization would need to fit with the vision, excuse me, of the school. Important distinction. Okay, true or false? We have two questions left. Further to the previous, can a governing board may refuse a gift, grant, or legacy? I guess I kind of gave that one away. A governing board may refuse a gift, a grant, or a legacy. Okay, and the answer is true. The governing board may refuse, and I had just given the reasons. Okay, so to the top is at the top, and we have our last question. Oh, it's not a governing board question. How much does a single cloud weigh on average? Is it 1,000 pounds? Not an e-cloud, a cloud in the sky. 100,000 pounds, 1.1 million pounds, or clouds are weightless, George. So I was very surprised with this when I did this. I researched it a couple of times because I didn't believe it, and I probably would have answered what the majority of you answered. I know there are a couple of science teachers here, and they're saying, well, George, yeah, no, they're not weightless, actually. At 1.1 million pounds, typically. So all those water droplets, and one of the articles that I read said, just think you've got, well, a really cloudy day, all that weight above you. Anyway, so in closing up the podium, congratulations. Third place was Britt. Second place, Eric. And in first place, I believe, was To the Top. To the Top. Great stuff. Okay. And Karen and Zeke, runners up. So I'm going to get out of that screen for a sec, and we'll go back to the other. Leave site, leave. Okay. I'm just going to share my screen again. All right, the Education Act. So the Education Act contains everything really arguably that you need to know regarding a governing board. If you open up the conversation box, and you look at 636, I dropped the link to the Education Act and then also the Governing Board functions and powers. I put both of those in there. Just want to see if somebody is able to go in and open that and just let me know that it worked. If it isn't, is it
Sorry,
not coming
George,
up?
just from once you started the recording, we lost the view of the any other chat before the
I'm going
recording
to
started.
stop sharing. And are you able to pull it up now, Robin?
Not for me.
No?
The first thing now in the chat is 7:05 p.m. Recording has started.
Okay.
So it's like
I
everything
see.
before you started recording, you didn't have permission yet.
Okay.
So it seems to have
Okay. So I'm going to open it up and see.
Can you repost it
I'm
into the
going
chat?
to, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I just have to share it. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share it right now for now because it's not allowing me to copy it. And we'll just look at some of the pieces. So you see the screen there? And I'll blow it up a bit, zoom. Is everybody able to read that? Is it okay?
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, okay. So
it's clear.
I'm going to I'll scroll through. And there are a number of pages, and so I will make sure that all of you have this. I'll drop it in, but so you see here, section 42 talks about the number of the makeup of the governing board. So that was in the Kahoot, not more than 20 members. And it designates the number of parents, the minimum, school staff, and in the case of secondary schools, students. Stop me if there's something that you have a question about, because again, I don't want to spend 20 minutes reading the whole thing. The board, this has come up, who determines the number of parents, representatives, and staff representatives? It's actually the Council of Commissioners. In schools that have fewer than 60 students, there's a provision there. We only have one school that fits that category. Commissioners, we said, cannot be on the governing board. Principal does not have a vote. This speaks about the necessity to have your General Assembly before September 30th. And then these are provisions that just allow for how do we go about the staff and non-teaching professionals and so on, support staff, daycare, how do they select their people for governing board? So again, we're really still talking about composition, electing substitute members. I don't see the screen necessarily, so if you do have to stop me, just turn your mic on and say, George, I have a question, please. Term of office, we spoke about. Parents rep whose child no longer, we addressed that in the Kahoot. The governing board chair needs to be a parent representative. Excuse me, so staff member cannot be the chair of governing board. It has to be one of the parent reps. Principal looks after governing board until you have a chair. Term of office we spoke about. Quorum we spoke about. Decisions, yeah, we've addressed a lot of these. Yeah, that's a good one. 64. Every decision that a governing board makes must be in the best interest of the students. And there have been times in situations on governing boards where people have been torn, but it's really important to focus on that fact that what is in the best interest of the students. A couple more logistics. We're going to get to your actual role here in a second. Talks about the minutes, and the minutes need to be made public. They need to be made available to the public. So again, the Education Act doesn't say that although the Education Act was written, although there have been revisions since, it doesn't say that they have to be on your website. They say you have to have a public register that's available. Go ahead. I've got Jane Bouchard.
Yeah, George, I was just wondering, can a parent be, like, if you have kids at 2 different schools, can you be a chair on both governing boards if you wanted to?
Yes. Yeah, there's nothing saying that you can't. What you couldn't be, excuse me, if you're, I didn't mention this, but if you were a parent, if you were a parent at a school and you worked at that school, then that's different. You lose your eligibility if you're an employee. But you could sit as an employee. You could sit as a staff member, even though you're a parent. Talks about conflict of interest, functions and powers. I'm going to scroll down to the actual functions and powers, and again, you will all have this if you don't already. To the actual rules. Okay, so 75.2. This is further elaborating on the anti-bullying, anti-violence plan that was put into place. I believe it's 8 years ago. And very important that the governing board approves the school's anti-bullying, anti-violence plan. That's something that is mandated by the Education Act. All school staff members collaborate in implementing the ABAV plan. So here you go, 76. So rules of conduct and safety measures. The governing board doesn't create them. The governing board approves them as they're proposed by the principal. So there's a distinction to be made there in terms of function. And the principal, there's a process the principal needs to go through in order to bring those rules of conduct and safety measures forward. So the staff has to be consulted, for example. Well, you have it in 77. It talks about it being developed in collaboration with school staff. Again, 77.1, based on the principal's proposal, the governing board shall establish principles for determining cost of the documents mentioned in the second paragraph, section 7. Again, there are parameters that need to be taken into consideration. Governing board advises the school board concerning any matter the school board. So anything that the school board would, so the council of commissioners would strike a resolution stating we want to consult governing boards on matter X. Anything that they propose to the governing board for consultation, the governing board would act in order. Matters likely to facilitate the operation of the school and improve the organization. School board must consult. So this one concerning the amendment or revocation of the deed of establishment of the school. So that's if the school was going to be closed or moved. Selection criteria for the appointment of the principal, you will see that every year, typically in March or April. You'll receive something from the school board asking for that. And then you have the other responsibilities, excuse me. And so you can go through those. Probably that will happen at your individual governing boards if it hasn't already. But this is the perfect, I mean, it's the essential reference document. To see there are a couple of hands up. Sorry, just a second. I'll get right to you. Amanda, go ahead. Sorry.
That's okay. Could you scroll back to 80? I think it's 83.
Sure.
I'm wondering if you could provide an example of how that might be done. So reporting on the level of quality of services.
Okay. Oh, sorry. My dog just came and flipped something here on me. Yeah, so each year the governing board will inform the parents and the community of the services provided by the school and report on the level of quality. And then you have 83.1 shall evaluate the results achieved by the school with respect to preventing and dealing with bullying and violence. And then there's the piece on the student ombudsman, which we have to, at the school board level, make certain that the student ombudsman for the school board has a report on all bullying and violence. Going back to just 83 itself, that can be, for example, at the secondary level or the elementary level. You could be speaking about end of year results. So in elementary, for example, talking about the language arts épreuves. Épreuves being like a standardized test that's done throughout the province. You would do the same thing at the secondary level. You could give a report on how what the school results were. So the success rate, sorry, go ahead.
Would it also apply to something like the education project, like the 5-year plan? Would that fall under here?
Absolutely. And the difference being that with the épreuves, they would be standard, Amanda, across all the schools. So at a grade 6 level, all the grade 6s are writing, they're all writing the same épreuve. With an educational project, you're right, that's specific to your school. But looking at that and answering the question, well, have we achieved the goals that we've set out for in our educational project? If we're looking at school success, if we had set a goal of, I don't know, reducing the amount of some kind of a behavior, maybe, I don't want to get into specifics, but because it varies from school to school, but reporting on something that you've identified as a school as a goal. So then section 83 would be looking at, yes, we're reporting on that. Does that answer?
That's great, thank you.
Right. Yeah, you're welcome. Then you have functions and powers relating to educational services. The first one, the basic school regulation, that's not up for debate. That's something, the basic school regulation is telling you, here are the courses you have to run. These are the ones that you can run as options. Here is the apportioned amount of time, the unapportioned amount of time. So that gives you a bit of flexibility, but for the very most part, there's not a lot of flexibility. You get flexibility when you get to grade 11 and in secondary, and you can select 2 option courses from a list. Otherwise, it's pretty much prescribed the whole way through, although there is a bit of, as I said, flexibility with the arts, for example. But it's not a question of a governing board saying, you know what, we want to double the amount of math that the ministry is saying that we should be giving. You don't get to do that because in doing so, you wouldn't be respecting the basic school regulation. And concurrent with that, in number 86, the time allocation proposed by the principal. Again, the principal has to respect the basic school regulation, which is aligned with the Education Act. And so it's presented, and really what you're doing is making certain that you're respecting those protocols and guidelines and directives. Governing board responsible for approving the programming of educational activities, again proposed by the principal, which entail the students leaving or it's a change in the regular time of arrival and departure. So, for example, you're going on a field trip and the students are coming back after school hours. It's got to be approved by governing board. Go ahead, Amanda. Oh, you're muted.
Sorry,
No, that's all right.
Okay, just a question about subject allocation.
Yep.
The school board decide the percentage of French taught at schools within the board, and which schools are French immersion, or 30% or 40%. And then a part 2 to that of which subjects are taught in French. Is that decided by governing board, or is that decided by the teachers? How does that work?
It's a proposal that would come through school council at the school. So the principal would consult the staff first, and then it goes to governing board for approval. And so a decision whether or not to run, as you mentioned, French immersion is a good example. So not all schools run French immersion. And again, you have to keep in mind the number of students who would go into an immersion program. So There are a number of variables that you would take into account in making that decision, one of which would be, well, what are our numbers like? And so do the numbers warrant it? You see that as well sometimes in the secondary schools where they want to offer a given option, but they may only have 6 students who want to take that course. And so that becomes very expensive to have a teacher teaching 6 students when typically a group at high school is 32. So those variables fall into place. But again, principal consults with the staff, then recommendation, feedback from school council. The principal proposes or brings the proposal, sorry, to governing board as it's outlined here.
Sorry,
go ahead.
part 2, field trips.
Sure.
Fees related to field trips. So when field trips are brought to governing board, are we allowed to charge the parents fees? Or I know there's been discussions in the past of conversations around that. So I'm just curious legally.
Yep. Legally, that's a great question because as you probably are aware, in the past couple of years, there was a class action lawsuit launched by an individual on behalf of all parents in the province. And it related not exclusively, but in the very most part to fees charged to parents. So if an activity is happening, and again, it's outside of the school day, then yes, or you're leaving the school grounds, you're allowed to charge for that. Or if you're bringing in somebody, what you couldn't do is have a staff member run an activity at school and charge the students for it. So if I was teaching dance, as I used to do for a long time, I don't know why everybody's smiling on the screen now, but anyway, I would not as a teacher be able to charge for that. So there's a distinction there. Okay. Are you good? Okay. So then you've got the physical and financial resources, the gifts, legacies we spoke about, and then it finishes up with parent participation. Organization is in that link. So I will send that to you. I'm just going to stop sharing it. Excuse me. And I'm going to bring up, I won't go through it, but I'll just bring up so you see what it looks like. The other attachment that I had in there. And it's the roles and powers of the governing board. So I'll just enlarge it for you. I'll share it quickly so you see what it looks like, as I said. So this is a great document that really outlines, so you'll see here governing boards, the subject, the governing board, what the principal does, what the school board does, and the staff members concerned, so the collaborators. But really, this second column looks at the governing board and what the role is, and it goes through everything. So it's an excellent breakdown and a really good tool for you to have as governing board member. So I will share both of those before we leave. I just don't want to do it right now because I'm going to lose. It's not coming up. It's not allowing me to copy it. So we've gone through the Education Act. Oh, share that screen. Sorry. Roles and powers we've spoken about. If we talk about going through key elements, some of this we've already done. Composition, chair, secretary, quorum we've spoken about. Rules of procedure, we'll spend a minute about minutes. The ABAV plan we've spoken about. Budget, adopting versus approving. Notion of consultation in camera, and then we're going to just take some more questions. So the composition, we've gone through that. I will also share the, well, you'll have a recording of the of this meeting, but I'll share the slides. The governing board chair, we've gone through that. The chair must be from among the parent reps on the governing board. The secretary of the governing board keeps an accurate record of the meetings, records motions, resolutions. That's an important distinction to be made. The secretary, the minutes really should show resolutions, and it's a fine line. What you don't really want to be doing is trying to record everything that's being said. Because inevitably you're going to miss things and you may get the wrong context, and it skewers the minutes to a large degree. So you know, who's attending, who are the regrets, you have the agenda, and then it's good to have resolution numbers, because quite often those resolution numbers will be requested. So if you've made a resolution making a formal request to the Council of Commissioners, then you would be asked for the resolution number. And again, your minutes really should only be showing that. And if there is a long discussion, you can note it by just stating, the minutes can say there was discussion, but you shouldn't be, you have to remember the minutes need to be made public or available to the public as part of the register. And so they shouldn't be showing, you know, so-and-so said this and this person got angry because she didn't like what was being said, and then this guy was saying something like just the resolutions. Quorum we spoke about. So again, it's the majority of the members of the governing board who are in office, including at least half the parents. And so it's typically one of the first items on the agenda is just the verification of quorum. Should be something that you check at the beginning of every meeting. Make certain that you have quorum, otherwise you can't pass resolutions. The rules of procedure or order. The governing board, as per Article 67, is responsible for establishing its own rules of internal management. Typically, Robert's Rules of Procedure are the guide. Go ahead, Robin.
Just a question about quorum. So when it says the majority of members, at least half being parents, does that just simply mean half the parents plus one staff member equals quorum?
So if you have, I'm going to do a bit of math here. So if you have 14 members on governing board, 7 of whom are parents, you would need to have at least 4 parents, and a total of the majority, you'd have to have at least 9, a total of 9. So at least half of the majority of the members, or not half of the majority, you'd have to have the majority of the members, so at least half, over half, of which half of the parent representatives. So it places the emphasis on ensuring that there's parent representation. We've spoken about the anti-bullying, anti-violence plan. This, as I said earlier, has to be approved by governing board as proposed and presented by the school principal. The budget is something that, and this is well, it's semantics, but it's adopting as opposed to approving. So approval, governing board, just go through it, accepts or rejects a proposal without the possibility of making changes. So you approve something, it's done. Whereas adoption is a little bit different.
Mine?
No. Sorry, I just we've got a couple of mics on. It's not a problem. Just so adoption, the governing board has the power to change, adapt, add, or remove one or elements as proposed by the principal. And that's only the case in for 2 items, as it states there, the educational project and the budget. So again, adopting is very similar to approving. Adopting just allows for some flexibility that approval doesn't.
Sorry, can I just
sure.
make sure I understood that part, George?
Yep.
So approving is accepting, rejecting, but no changes, and adopting is you can propose modifications.
That's the good distinction, Eric, is that you can propose. You don't have, when you're adopting, you don't get to say, no, you're going to take the money and put it here. and then we'll approve it. It's about adopting allows, like I said, for that flexibility for the governing board to say, okay, the budget has been presented or the educational project has been presented. No, as a governing board, so somebody puts a motion forward to adopt and the motion is not carried, and then there'd be an option or an opportunity, I should say, for feedback where those who do not want to adopt say, okay, well, wondering if the governing board feels that perhaps this should be the focus, or this should be a focus for the educational project, maybe that's missing. So it's not quite the same. They're very, very similar, but there is that distinction that's being made. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Consultation. Governing board provides an opinion on any matter with the possibility of influencing, obviously, the final decision. And again, when you look at the Education Act, you'll see all of the things that the governing board must be consulted on by the school board or the principal. The governing board has the opportunity to advise the school board. So again, the school board, there are some things that the school board has to ask. So the school board will ask about the criteria for the principal. That's part of the Education Act. So you're being asked to advise on that. Or something may come up for a given school or the whole school board. Typically it would be a given school, and the governing board would be consulted by the board. In camera, if you have, this doesn't happen often at the governing board level. However, it's important that you are aware of it. The chair may state that we're going to go in camera. So in camera means that the minutes do not, all the minutes reflect is that you go in camera, and then it's closed, and what's discussed there is not reported in camera. Sorry, in the minutes. If there were public participants at your meeting and you go in camera, you have to ask. The only people who can be present in camera are the governing board members. So that would include even if Commissioner Daly, for example, who's here with us this evening, was at a governing board meeting, he'd have to be, a commissioner would have to be asked because they're not a member. They're there observing, but they're not a member of governing board. Go ahead, Amanda.
Are there any items that normally governing board approves that are kind of on hold because of COVID still? I know there was talk, I think last year, or maybe it was late 2020, that the educational project had kind of been put on hold because of the chaos of COVID and online learning and the challenges
Right.
with that. Are we focused back on that as part of regular check-ins that we're supposed to do? Are things on hold?
Yeah, that's, I'm not going to speak for individual schools, but I will say that generally speaking, yeah, of course, last year threw everybody upside down. And schools really have felt that, where they were, as you said, the disruptions, the students are in, students are out. Some students are in, some students are out. Some classes have been quarantined. It was very, very challenging. I would argue that it's still challenging in a different, well, not fully different. It's still similar. I mean, we've got schools are dealing with social distancing. They're dealing with all of the things that you're aware of that have to do with COVID. That being said, there is a move towards, I think generally speaking, it would depend, Amanda, on what your educational project actually is. So what is the focus? And I know maybe in some cases that it's something that may be on a back burner, but certainly not just put aside and say, okay, well, we're not doing that because there needs to be that focus. So yes, I would say generally speaking, the educational projects, while still very important, maybe the manner in which they were being executed, some of the things that the goals, the strategies, more so, it was difficult or in some cases impossible to execute strategies or instructional strategies and so on that fit. So we are certainly aiming towards a return to that, but there are still, as you know, restrictions. I've got Robin and then Julie.
Could you give like an example of an in-camera scenario potentially? I just can't.
Yeah, so I will, sure. I'm gonna, questions is the last slide, so I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. Is the screen gone? Yeah, okay. So an example of an in-camera session would be, one example could be a discipline committee. So if you were speaking about a student who unfortunately maybe was having to be expelled from school, that would be one example where you would not have public, anybody from the public. And you certainly wouldn't want the student's name to be appearing in the minutes. So that's one example. So something like that, that's of a personal nature. It should be, it's important too, though, that, and I've been asked this question before, okay, well, if I have a problem with a staff member, I bring it to governing board, and the governing board is not part, that's not part of the mandate of governing board. So if somebody had a concern with a staff member, there is a complaints policy that the school board has, and the first person you would speak to would be the school principal, and then there's the director responsible for the school, and then there's the director general, and then it would come to me and I'd bring it to the Council of Commissioners, and then it would end up with the student ombudsman. So there is a very structured complaints procedure. Governing board, though, is not the place for that. Julie?
Hi, my question is related to the notion of in-camera meetings as well.
Yep.
So in terms of who is who attends an in-camera meeting, governing boards often have non-voting members, such as representatives from the community that sit. Is it only members who are eligible to vote, or
No.
all of them are governing board members that
So everybody who's eligible to be on the governing board, so that would include the principal and the community members if you have elected community members. Those three individuals, however, if you have two community members and principal, obviously you'd have the principal, they're part of the governing board, or they're non-voting members. So that's a great distinction you're making. So if you did go into camera, everybody who's part of the governing board stays. Anybody who is attending as an observer must leave. So the non-voting members of your governing board are still governing board members. They just cannot vote, but they would be part of an in-camera session.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Other questions that you may have concerning anything with the governing board? Anything?
Eric wrote some questions in the chat.
Okay, I'll go into the chat. Thank you for that, Brittany. So in the conversation, any tips or tricks for running a good governing board meeting? I'm a new chair. So he said, for example, I thought you said something about putting things to a vote immediately and only discussing if the motion to adopt or approve doesn't pass. Okay. What I didn't mean was certainly that you should be rushing anything. I think what Eric is referring to is what I was speaking about recording the minutes, and that should really just show the resolution and whether it was approved or rejected. I would say as a governing board chair, it's really important to speak to your principal, and not so that you can, it's not about collusion. It's just to be able to speak to them and put the agenda together. The agenda is the very important piece, and it should go out typically, ideally a week before, but certainly I'd say at least 3 days, 4 days before the governing board meeting. What you don't want to be doing is handing people the agenda and any relevant documents when they're coming into the meeting. Because what you want people to be doing is you're on governing board, you're representing your school community, And so the understanding is there's a bit of work to do. You're volunteering your time, which is very much appreciated, but it's also very important. And so I would say the chair should be ensuring that documents that are relevant, so the minutes from the previous meeting and any documents that are going to be referred to along with the agenda go out before the meeting. And then during the meeting itself, it's about running an effective meeting and controlling, giving people the opportunity to speak. If you, look at Robert's Rules of Order, again, you can get the full version, which is about 500 pages, but then you can get an abridged version. You can also get, and I recommend it highly, and I use it all the time as a reference. It's just it's 3 pages, and it contains most of the points of order that we would use even at the Council of Commissioners or at Governing Board. But it contains, when Eric asks about, maybe are there any tricks or strategies, the Roberts Rules will talk about, allowing somebody to speak, but then making certain other people speak before that first person speaks again, and things like that. Let's see if he has any other questions. I think that's okay. So I will make sure that okay, we've got some questions. Sorry, just give me a second. Let's see the participants, and we have Bronwyn. Go ahead.
Hi, yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
My question is about that distinction you were saying between approving and what was the other one? And adopting.
Yep.
Sorry, so I don't know if I couldn't see your screen when you were talking about that, so maybe I might have missed something that was obvious on the screen, but so you said there was only 2 documents that were going to be adopted, the educational project and the budget. So is it both the school budget and the daycare budget that Governing Board adopts? We get information about the daycare budget, but I don't know if that was just for information.
Yeah, it's the school budget per se.
And
so when in the Education Act, Article 66, I believe, refers to the budget as proposed by the principal, and so not every school has a daycare budget, but obviously the principal is bringing the daycare budget forward as well. But when in looking at the overall budget, you have specific budget tracks that refer to all activities or expenses that are incurred in a school, and so that's what you are looking at adopting.
Okay, and so would that be like at each meeting? Because we get the budget presented at each meeting.
So you're right. It typically is a standing item and so the principal would review that at every meeting. But in terms of adopting it, the process that you would go through is and that's not to say that, people can't ask questions and say, okay, well, I have a question about this budget track line or this actual expense or something in there that you're not certain about. But the actual adoption typically would happen in May or June for the upcoming year. So the principal presents, there's again a process the principal needs to go through. The school staff needs to be consulted. They need to determine, they're consulted about the specific needs and wants that they have as a school and categorize them. Are they educational? Are they technological? Are they related to activities? Are they human resource needs and so on? And excuse me, that's part of the process where they're consulted, the school is consulted to give feedback to the school board, for the Council of Commissioners, who will then create their budget as well. And then there's a process where the school principal will receive an amount based on the projected allocation of students that are coming in for the upcoming year. So if I'm at a school and I have 430 students projected to come in, there's a dollar amount associated with each one of those students. And then there's a breakdown as well for students who have are coded or who have a specific weighting that may carry a larger dollar amount. And so those two are distinguished. And then you have the allocation, you're going to get X amount of dollars for that. And then you'll get X amount of dollars for what's called FTE. And there's a breakdown of students along with the students who generate a little more money. And FTE is furniture, tools, and equipment. And so those are costs that you have to associate, or money that has to be spent on furniture, tools, or equipment. The principal then looks at that and says, okay, here's the amount. This is what we're being given based on our projected allocation. And it will be finalized on September 30th the following year when we do our actual official count. But the principal then goes away and says, okay, based on this amount, consults with the staff, and then comes to the governing board and says, we're getting X amount of dollars. Here is how we're proposing to spend it. And then the whole notion of adoption means that through the course of the year, the principal could come and say, okay, initially we had projected we were going to spend $5,000 on technology. However, we've received a grant for $12,000. And so I'm proposing that we take the $5,000 and move it into another budget track. And then at that time, the governing board could say, okay, we adopt this. And then again, that's that notion of being able to make change.
Okay, yeah, thank you. That definitely helps. And so for the other documents then that are to be approved,
Yep.
Does that mean we don't propose any changes? So say it's like the anti-bullying, one of the anti-bullying policy documents, we wouldn't be making any proposed.
You can still, if it's something that you're to be consulted on, then absolutely. It makes sense that you would give the reason why, as a governing board, you're not, or somebody speaks to it and says, well, I can't approve this personally because I feel it's not representative of our school mission. I'm exaggerating to make a point. But yeah, giving the reason and then giving a suggestion, but it's, again, if something is not approved, then the principal has to start over, but again, is following the same process. So if I, as a principal, am supposed to consult with the staff, and I do that and I propose something and it's not approved, then I'll go back and I'll reconsult with the staff and follow the process. And I can take feedback based on, I said, well, this is some of the feedback that I've received, but keeping in mind that the people who are supposed to be consulted are the staff in that given case. So it really depends on what the Education Act is saying in terms of the process for approval.
Thanks very much.
You're very welcome. Any other questions? I wonder if I can bring this up. If you just bear with me for a second, for a couple of seconds, I'm going to go in and try and bring those two documents up and copy them for you. I'm going to actually stop the recording because we don't have any questions, but I'll keep you with me here.